Hey, this is Cameron. Welcome back to the Busy Gardener channel. If you've been watching this channel, you know that the passion fruit has been one of the great successes up here in the orchard. Today I am joined with Charles of Ivy Organics, and we're going to be talking through how to clone, how to propagate these passion fruit to make multiple fruit off of this one vine. Let's get busy.
Let's get busy.
Passion fruit is one of those fruit that I've come to enjoy so much, not just because of the gorgeous blooms that are here, which are just astounding, nothing like them.
Absolutely.
But the flavor, our kids and our family have really enjoyed eating passion fruit. It's kind of a little funny thing, I'd never even had a passion fruit before I planted this. I just knew I wanted something edible that would cover up my entire fence.
Yeah, you got a spectacular border that you've created from the passion fruit, and
it's evergreen.
And it's evergreen.
We never have to think about it. But something that is the case with passion fruit is that it's not an especially long-lived plant.
Yeah, unlike a lot of the fruit trees here on your property that might live 50, 100, and even more years than that, passion fruit unfortunately has an average life of about 7 years. So if you want to continue enjoying the varieties of passion fruit you brought on your property, you don't want to plant seeds and take chances just like our children. They're all different than their parents. Just as we're also children of our parents, we're not identical clones. But if you want a genetic identical clone to what you've already got on your property, then you're going to want to watch this.
We're talking right now about passion fruit, but at the end of this video, we're going to be talking through a few other types of plants that are very easily cloned, so you're going to want to stay tuned for that. Hey, and before this video goes on any further, why don't you tell me in the comments below something that you've had success propagating or cloning through cutting. We'd love to hear what you've tried, because I might want to try it. All right, let's go on. Okay, so step one is collecting your cuttings.
Paper scissors work fine for your passion fruit vines that are within the first year of growth.
They're not especially woody. They're super tender and easy to cut through with scissors, so use scissors for this one. The reason you want to disinfect your tools is because sometimes germs and other pathogens can be on your tools, and you don't want to be transferring those to your healthy live plant.
Some of the most vigorous vine growth within this passion fruit vine, and I'm just going to pull out a few feet of growth here. And once I decide where I'm going to cut, I'm just going to find that nearest leaf node, and I'm actually going to prepare a cut that's going to be going right into the growing medium. I'm cutting it at about a 45-degree angle, about 1/4 of an inch away from that leaf node. And there we go. I'm now going to begin cleaning it up.
You're removing all of those
Removing the
flowers, the leaves.
Flowers, leaves, and even that tendril. And now let's go to our workbench. So we've got our vine here at our workbench, and the vine currently is too long to plant, and we're not going to plant this because it doesn't have any roots. We're going to want to make sure that we've got something that's proportionate to the cutting. And what we're going to do in general, and this applies to most cuttings, and we're going to talk about some bonus things that we can also propagate and clone, but you're going to want to keep it down to about 4 to maybe 6 inches would be reasonable, whereas this here right now is about 2 to 3 feet. So what we're going to do is now cut a few of the nodes down like so. So I'm following from here, which is our first node. This is the second leaf node, third leaf node. I'm trying to twist this so you can kind of see where I'm at. I can actually begin my first now cut, and whereas the bottom leaf node I cut at a 45-degree angle, here I'm cutting straight. The reason and the logic behind a straight cut versus an angled cut is we're trying to minimize desiccation from that cut surface. So we cut straight at the top, and now I'm going to remove, obviously, the flower. The goal is we're not going to be enjoying fruit off of this cutting, as again, it's got no roots and it's not established and it's not, viable to support fruit at this point, and it's going to be an added stress. And the goal right now is we want roots, we want shoots. We don't necessarily are expecting fruit from a brand new cutting, and in fact it'll actually damage the cutting to support fruit at this point. So that flower is gone. The tendril is going to come off as well.
It's not growing anywhere. It's not climbing anywhere right now.
Nope. So removing the tendrils, that's extra added waste. This spent flower will also be coming off as well. And the last thing we're going to do to further reduce desiccation, the loss of moisture, is we're going to cut the leaves now in half as well. And this is going to better help the stem better retain moisture and further improve the success with rooting.
Is a fair way to say that the flower, the tendrils, the leaves kind of create a level of overhead on your plant. And so we're kind of reducing the amount of overhead so that way the plant's able to focus on rooting.
Absolutely. We've removed all of that, and we're leaving the leaves on because the leaves also create the auxins, which are going to also be a further root stimulant. So it's important to keep the leaves. If they eventually fade off, no big deal. If you're getting a close-up of the joints, you can see that there is some growth happening on the tips within the nodes of both of these leaves, which isn't necessary, but we've already got that as a jump start, and that's going to be the future of what we're going to be expecting out of this cutting. So now I'm not going to demonstrate this for the second time, except now instead of a middle section of a cutting, we're going to be doing a growth tip, which I particularly favor and have experienced even further cloning success using the tips of the cuttings. So what I'm going to do again is I'm following down a few nodes. There's a lot of nodes obviously compacted near the tips, but I'm going to go down about another node or two and figure that once we plant it into the soil medium that we're going to be creating shortly, that you're going to want to put about 1 and up to 2 nodes below into the soil medium. So again, since this is going underground, we're removing the entire leaf and the tendril as well as the little blossom that's within that node. I'm just cleaning that up. And now we're going to continue removing the tendrils and the blossoms as far up as we can go. And then the last step, as we did with the other section, is we're going to cut the leaves in half to further reduce the loss of moisture. And that's it. That's the second cutting that we're going to be using. So again, with the middle section where we cut off at a straight angle to, again, reduce the risk of loss of moisture and injury. The bottom, again, we cut at a 45-degree angle, and what we're going to further do is we're going to take our paper scissors and we're going to scar also that node section about a 1/4 inch to about a 1/2 inch up the stem. That's going to further improve moisture absorption and also help further stimulate root development. And we're going to do that to both of the cuttings, just like so.
And you're doing it on the back side of the node or off to the side of the node?
Just on one side of it. The next thing we're going to do is now prepare the soil medium, which is very easy. A lot of growers like using perlite, which is just mineral and also an organic product, or vermiculite. And this just kind of looks like fool's gold. We got vermiculite, perlite. My ideal mix is using both in a 50-50 vermiculite perlite mix, and I'm just gonna toss those two. The perlite is white, the vermiculite is that gold that's in there. And what we're gonna do now is simply fill up one of these plastic cups with this soil medium. The reason I also like using perlite and vermiculite is that it's mineral. It's not out of any organic green material or compost material that's going to contribute towards rot and mildew and bacteria that's going to further result in the loss of these cuttings. But this is a natural way, again, still organic, but won't contribute towards the rot and mildew of these fresh cuttings that we've just created. The next thing I'm going to do is just using a plastic cup is I'm going to be adding some drain holes. Just like any good potting container, you're going to want to make sure it has good drainage so water can flow. What we're doing is going to be adding some holes like there using just these paper scissors. And this is just going to allow the water to pass. As you can see, I've basically scarred the bottom in a few places just so you can see the water pass. It goes through really quick. So again, it's damp and it's kind of a rainy day anyway, so we're getting wet all over. But this is my Gallagher moment, I guess, with the watering cup. But what we're gonna do now is fill it up with the perlite vermiculite mix that we just created, and then we're gonna insert the cuttings. We're gonna add a rooting powder to it as well. And I've got two products. This one over here is a Clonex rooting gel, and this one here is a powder. You can also use, if you don't have these products, just cinnamon or honey. The number one goal when rooting your cuttings is to prevent, as we just said, and with that soil medium that we picked, is to prevent what?
Rotting.
Disease. And that's what these products are actually mostly about, is preventing the rotting of your cuttings. But this product also has some rooting stimulant in it as well. which will also further help develop those roots even faster. So I'm just going to use this rooting powder, and I'm just dipping it that bottom 1/4 of an inch, and we're just going to be inserting it right into the cup like so.
That looks like when I'm a kid and I just take something and plant it. You're telling me that this is going to grow. Because I feel like I've tried this kind of thing as a kid, just, oh look, I planted a tree.
This here is gonna, within about a year or two, grow into this monster passion fruit vine that we started this lesson on. So now we're gonna insert the second cutting alongside, and you can fit 2, 3, 4 cuttings all in the same container and watch them grow. So again, we've just coated that bottom 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch, and we're just gonna be inserting that into our potting mix. The next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna spray it now. And we talked about the importance of cutting the leaves in half so it works as an anti-transparent. The Ivory Organic 3-in-1 Plant Guard also offers anti-transparent benefits to your plants, and we can now spray it like so. And it's gonna go on kind of as a milk. You can see that like whiteness that's on there. And that's gonna help the plant better retain water and help improve cloning success as well. What we're gonna do is, now that we've got the holes at the bottom of the container, is we're going to add another plastic cup to catch, as a catch-all, that water that's gonna pass through. We're gonna be careful when we water it, especially the first time, to keep that water in the bottom 5 to 10% of the cup. You don't wanna fill up the cup with water, because now you're gonna end up in a phenomenon just like all of your fruit trees here on your property with root rot. We don't wanna rot that solution. We keep talking about rotting. So we're gonna end up watering, and I'll water here from behind. I'm just gonna spill the water over, and if I make a mistake, I'm actually gonna make a mistake right now, just dump all the water into it. We're gonna see the water just climb up the cup. And if that happens, just simply pull the cup apart. I'm gonna see all the water fill in there. And you can just dump half the water out, that's too much. Keep some of the water in there. And now we've accomplished the goal of keeping the water near the bottom 10% of the cup. And that's gonna help offer enough moisture to the soil medium to help encourage those roots to develop and then grow down. So the last thing, I brought this bottle over, which is just a bottle of water. Whenever you come to visit your cuttings, morning, afternoon, night, if you even get to visit them 3 times a day, and every time you do, just spray them with a little more water, which can go on like this. But I'm gonna wait for the Ivory Organics products to first dry on, and you can add this product. You can even do foliar feeding to the plant as they root and develop, and the Ivory Organics products will not interfere with it, as the product dries on porously compared to latex and tar-based products, so it's a healthier alternative. And you can spray and keep those leaves hydrated and those cuttings, successful while those roots get developed. And you can expect roots in as little as about 2 to 3 weeks.
Wow.
Probably within 6 weeks at most. And then you'll have some more cuttings that you can pull apart, repot, or introduce in your garden to continue filling in this mile-long fence, chain link fence that you've got now with passion fruit vines.
Charles, where's the best place to store something like this? Indoors, outdoors, in shade?
Excellent question. You could do it indoors, like in a sunny window, that gets especially like morning light. My preference is to keep it outside, especially now here we are mid-May, and find a spot that gets, again, that morning light, and that by afternoon sun, it gets that shelter and protection. So again, we don't want to dry these cuttings out, but we do want to offer them the warmth and the benefits of the sun. So a nice, area that offers that morning light would be ideal.
We're really excited that this is going to give us years and years of passion fruit. But like we said at the beginning, we want to talk about a few types of plants that are easy to propagate by cutting. What are some of those?
So there's a lot of choices, and as we were talking earlier today, if you think about the fruits that were growing in BC times, almost all of those are easy to propagate by way of cuttings, and those include citrus, grapes, pomegranates, figs.
I'm getting hungry now.
Roses. There's a ton of stuff, and the list continues. And for the things that are harder to propagate by way of cutting, consider air layering, and that's maybe something we can do in the next lesson.
That sounds really good. This passion fruit that we have is a Frederick passion fruit, and I think that's something to reiterate again, is that we are cloning. You're getting something that is a genetically identical fruit, versus putting the seed in the ground and hoping for the best and hoping that the fruit that comes out is good. So if you like the Frederick passion fruit, for example, then use cutting to do that type of cloning. If you like that type of fig, cut it to clone it is a great way to do that.
Absolutely. A lot of people get confused and like, oh, the fruit is so good, and then they plant the seeds. And I just want to reiterate that we're all children and we're not identical to mom and dad. Hopefully we're like them in some ways, but we're all different. And if you want to be identical, the only way to accomplish that is one of a few ways is by cloning using the cutting method.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you sharing this lesson with us, Charles. This has been so instructive and helpful. Hopefully you've gotten some ideas out of this. What have you had success cloning in your orchard or garden? Would love to hear those. Put those in the comments below. Appreciate you tuning into this episode of The Busy Gardener. And whether you've got one fruit that you need to try to clone or 500, until next time, stay busy.
Stay busy.